Alrighty, today's March 29th. This is the blockchain meeting. Recording has begun. Just a quick mainnet check-in here. During the prepare phase, which was successful ultimately, before I say this, we had a kind of deep fork of 8 blocks on the blockchain that was likely a manifestation of issue 2495. What happens in this issue is a miner can win sortition, and then a flash block can happen, and they can win the sortition in the flash block. And this can cause the initial winning block to get lost sometimes. I don't really know why that happens. I'm trying to figure that out still. But it did result in one miner producing a relatively long fork that they and only they could see. But everyone else got the subsequent blocks, but did not get the missing ancestor block. I don't know whether or not the block gets stored somewhere that allows them to propagate it later, or whether or not it's lost forever. Either way, the chain recovered. So the prepare phase succeeded. So POX is actively running, but it is something that I'm trying to fix. Probably not for, I don't know if we should fix it for 2.0.11, but it will be in 2.0.12 if it's not. So just a heads up on this.
Yeah. So is this something that's I guess exacerbated by running a miner behind a NAT?
I don't know.
Because I think that the Neon node only tries to broadcast a block once. It only tries to do a push one time.
Right.
And so if that fails for whatever reason and you're natted, then I think you would end up in this situation.
Not quite. The anti-entropy protocol for the blocks will look at the inventory state of your neighbors, and if it sees that it has a block that the neighbors does not have, it will periodically try to just and that's not happening, and that's what scares me.
Gotcha.
The last time this happened, where we had a bug in the chain that caused nodes to not propagate blocks, they eventually did show up, precisely because the anti-entropy protocol ensured that they would show up. Gotcha. But I don't know what's happening here that's causing them to get lost and never show up.
Gotcha.
At least the chain is recovering, though. The system is able to mine past the fork.
Yeah.
That's at least a good thing. But yeah, this is pretty serious. I'd like to take a look at this once the more pressing issues are done. And speaking of those pressing issues, I ran a test over the weekend to see if the develop branch has fixed the event resource leak bug, and it has not. So I need to spend some time looking through the logs there and try to isolate where the missing deregister is supposed to be happening, but is not happening.
We don't know if it's a recent regression versus, or I think you had mentioned, Jude, that you suspect that it's a latent bug, not a regression.
That's correct.
But at least based on some of the reports that I've gotten from other node operators, this bug it seems to manifest quite easily on 2010, but not on 2009.
I don't know.
So, yeah. Okay.
Moreover, I don't know if it's specific to their configuration or if it's something that's generally wrong, because I do see the bug manifest on both a natted node as well as a public node, but it happens very slowly. It takes weeks before it becomes a problem.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm not sure. I mean, if I had more insight into the node operators' setups, I might be able to figure out more. But until they're willing to share that, I just have to keep guessing.
Okay.
Speaking about problems, the inventory sync that we were running into that's currently caused the testnet to not boot. That's still there. There's the PR that I have works for about 12 hours and then it breaks. The reason is that the node as a fault tolerance measure, it will continue to try to do full inventory synchronizations every 12 hours, but there's something wrong with the way it's scheduling the every 12 hours part that causes it to schedule them all the time once the first 12 hours have happened. So I'm trying to figure out why this happens right now and submit a patch to that PR that makes it not happen. Once that's out of the way, I have an accompanying PR that also changes the downloader behavior, because right now the downloader behavior is when you trying to when you are trying to process reward cycle n, the downloader will scan all of the reward cycles from 0 to n-1 to make sure that there's no new information to learn. This is also a quadratic bug that could be fixed. The PR for that though needs some more work because it's not passing all of our tests. But the fix is fundamentally the same. You just scan the last n download n reward cycles as opposed to all the reward cycles. And then you periodically do a full rescan every so often. These two things, unfortunately, have been blocking us from doing adequate testing on microblock mining and on the Atlas network on the testnet because the testnet simply isn't alive right now. So until we can get these two things knocked out, we can't even begin testing these other two features. So that said, 2.0.11 is likely not happening tomorrow. Let's go ahead and run to the board. So I mentioned earlier, the InvSync PR that is currently buggy, but hopefully will be fixed soon, is 2407 here. And the fix that also includes the modification to the downloader is 2407 net downloader. I see we also have a PR here for improving graceful termination. Ludo, do you want to talk more about this?
Sure. So this PR is fixing graceful termination so basically when the node is syncing, we have this pipeline with 3 threads that were not interrupted in the past. And so that was not an issue on testnet because the POC cycles are pretty short. And so you would just have to wait for a few blocks, but on mainnet you have it's way longer. So it was an issue. So yeah, so this PR is taking care of that.
Awesome. Ready for review?
Ready for review, yeah.
Cool. I'll go ahead and, it seems that we still have a test failure going on.
So this is, it's the OpenAPI validation. I think this test is also failing on Aaron's PR. So I don't know.
I think that there's something wrong with one of the NPM packages that the test depends
It's not a blocking. It's not a blocking thing.
Yeah, it shouldn't be.
I think we will need to at least disable that test, though. I'm pretty sure GitHub is set up to not let us merge until tests pass.
There's only a handful of tests that are marked required.
This is not one of them?
It's not one of them.
Awesome. Okay, we'll take a look at that today, hopefully. Is Pascal on the call? Because I saw he re-implemented 1641. All right, I guess he's not here. I'm not sure if it's wise to try to put this in 2.0.11, but we can probably put it in 2.0.12. Just because we have a bunch of other things going into 2.0.11 and we're kind of pressed for time on it.
Yeah, I think at this point, 2.0.11 should be sort of feature freeze. Anything remaining that we want to do in 11, it should be a fix.
Agreed. Very much agreed. I'm going to go ahead and just leave a comment here. Mempool walk order. What's the status of this Abrethra? Is it, do you need, has it, I see it doesn't have any approvals yet, so we need to go take a look at this again.
Oh yeah, so you suggested a new way to do it. I don't know if you even realized that, but in the other issue, accepted at.
Right.
So I'm trying to combine 2 bugs into one now. But I had a few questions about what you suggested.
Sure, let's pull that issue up here real quick then. What's the number?
Oh, what can I tell you? It is 2394.
Thanks. Issues 2394. Cool. What were your questions?
So one thing was for step number 2, you said that you want to go through the transactions by origin address. So you want to first go to the origin address with the highest cumulative STX fee. So I guess one thing I was wondering is that maybe a bad thing, prioritizing one origin address? And what if I don't know, could someone game that where they just like submitted a really high STX fee for like a later transaction, just so that they would be prioritized to be included in this block? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so backing up a second. So you can imagine that the state of the mempool is structured as follows. We have the chain tip, and then we have a set of transactions that could possibly be appended to the chain tip. If we're thinking about miner behavior, miners are trying to maximize their revenue. So what a miner would do if they had like infinite computing resources, they would try to pack the block as efficiently as possible, such that they got the most possible fees in addition to their Coinbase. The problem though is that that's an NP complete problem. So we don't try to do like a full bin packing thing here. So as a heuristic, and this is optional, I mean, if you can think of a better heuristic, that's totally fine. But one thing that miners might do as an almost good enough approach here would be look at all of the possible chains of transactions I can append to the current block while there's still space, and then just try to pick the ones that have the highest total fee. So in that case, in that example you have, if I have like a chain of transactions that's 20 transactions long and its total fee is relatively small, I can prioritize that chain by adding a 21st transaction with an extremely large fee. Because then my the total fee that a miner might get by including my 21 transaction chain now might exceed all the other possible things that could include in the block. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's all I meant by that. Like, I'm not like gung ho on that we have to do it that particular way, because it's a pretty opinionated block filling strategy, but it is something I think miners will want, and that's just that's just like observing previous blockchains and other work in other systems.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That sounds reasonable to me then. That's fine. I was a little confused by that, but cool.
And I think we also talked about like a way that this could be like behind a trait or something like that. So if miners want to change their strategies, they ought to be able to just do that.
Yeah, I think I talked about that with Aaron, and I think we were saying that we could make the trait stuff happen, like with the miner rewrite stuff that's going to happen in the future. So.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
This all sound good to you guys, Aaron, Ludo?
Yeah, I think so. I was going to reply to this comment thread. So
okay.
I think that there's like two things that we might want to separate. So one is like, so we have this ability to like just query through SQLite, and we'll just try to apply transactions regardless of sort of which fork admitted them. As long as the transaction is in the mempool, we try to apply them. And then, yeah, so you raised this point that like if a fork occurs, like it's not really fair to the original transaction broadcaster to require that they do replace by fee. So I think that that's true, but we currently have this concept of like replace across fork, where if the transaction you're replacing is in a different fork, it just allows you to replace it without increasing the fee. So I think we could just basically do that. So we would still have a uniqueness constraint on origin address nonce, so that the mempool doesn't have multiple transactions from the same origin address and nonce. And that way, the like mempool walk logic just sort of never needs to concern itself with walking forks.
We would, so that actually implies, that uniqueness constraint implies that when a new transaction arrives on a different fork, you'll have to first delete the old one.
Yes. Yeah, it's replace. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. As long as that works, and as long as we don't find ourselves with runtime panics due to uniqueness constraints, it's fine by me.
Yeah. I mean, we already have that uniqueness constraint.
Got it.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Cool. Wait, so does that mean there wouldn't be a case where like the same origin address and nonce would occur twice in the mempool?
Yeah, it should never occur twice in the mempool.
Okay. So then I could just like, so then I wouldn't even have to like, oh, so then like the third bullet point like wouldn't apply.
Right.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, in fact, I can just cross that off right now.
Yeah, it basically, it moves the work of that third bullet point to the mempool admission, which it's sort of already doing.
So is it already doing that, the mempool? Or like, do I have to also implement that?
Yeah, it's already doing that.
Okay.
But I think that we should confirm the way that it's doing it. Because I think right now it might just be checking whether or not the consensus hash block header hash pair is different and allowing it to replace cross forks, when really what it should be doing is like checking whether or not the existing transaction was admitted in a different fork than the current fork, not just a different block, but a different fork. So
that fork check is going to be required because it's an anti-DDoS measure. Otherwise, I could just keep sending the same transaction over and over again with any valid consensus hash block hash pair. You might want to also verify that the, oh wait, never mind, that's not true. I was going to say something about making sure that the consensus hash and block header hash are fresh, but I just remember that the transaction doesn't actually set those, the node does, so we're good there. Cool, any other questions, concerns about this? All right. In progress, 1805, yeah, bane of my existence. Reed, how are we doing on coupling the Clarity VM?
Yeah, this is going to be kind of my focus for this week. I spent a lot of last week working on some more Stacks.js stuff and some BNS related work in Stacks.js. So yeah, not much to update here. I did make a few issues that are a bit more specific than this one.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's cool. If you can just link them back, like then every time we have this meeting, I can just look at the list of open issues and we can just talk about the individual ones.
Oh, are they not linked?
Oh, they are.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah, like keep doing that. That's all I'm saying.
Oh yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Is this the same issue? Mempool transactions should be evaluated in nonce order, not walk order.
Yeah.
I think the Vitre's PR addresses this, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's the same issue. I mean, I don't know if you can like link.
Oh yeah, it's linked
together. Oh yeah.
It just maybe it shouldn't just be in the project board. Light versus full inventory rescans and POX syncs. So I think Aaron and I are both concurrently working on this. I just talked about 2549 earlier, which does try to address this, but there's still a couple of bugs to be fixed in it. How do you all want to proceed? Should I just keep working on that? Or Aaron, do you want to take this? Or I'm happy to just keep working.
I think like whatever is the quickest strategy to getting this rolled out and fixed. Like if you think that the block inventory sync is like actually what's going on, like this PR doesn't attempt to address the block inventory sync at all. Mm-hmm. Like all it's doing is like the only difference, I guess, between this PR and your PR is this PR basically changes the behavior of reset peer rather than your PR changes the behavior of starting the scan.
Right. I think the reason, I think that during initial block download, it probably doesn't make a difference if both of these are behaved correctly because you'll only be talking to one node either way. I guess the difference here is that in this PR, you're doing every nth scan as a full scan, whereas in my PR, it's like you do as many short scans or as few short scans as you want, but every X minutes you have to do a full scan.
I see.
I'm fine either way with that, just as long as we're not doing them all the time, which is the bug that we're dealing with right now.
Right. Yeah, I can close this and we can use your PR as a starting off point. I think we just need to, yeah, we need to get a miner running the PR, because like I think that basically with testing this, like we're not seeing the bad behavior for like 12 hours.
Yeah, that's not okay. I think it's imminently testable in a unit test, though. I just needed to go one step further and verify that the time between full in syncs is at least time.
Yeah.
There is one other thing, though, that we will need to address, and that is, sorry, I don't think it's actually linked to the project. It's this other PR here. There are a couple quadratic issues we've got to deal with. Obviously, there's the inventory sync. We only need to really look at the last few reward cycles in practice because that's where all the learning happens. But also the downloader shouldn't try to do a full download scan. Really what the downloader should do is it should look at the in-state machine and say, oh, where did the last sync begin at? Only look there for new block downloads. Don't look in the past. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Otherwise, you can have like a download scan take like a few minutes just doing IO, and that would suck. Especially if you have like 10,000 reward cycles to go through. There's the third thing I could fix here. I'm just gonna make a note, and that is if you find a reward cycle with no sortitions, which really would only happen on testnet, then just skip it. Like don't even bother looking. And that affects the sync watchdog. Like don't even wait for those to complete. Atlas testing is, I think these are all fixed. I just want to make sure that they're fixed on testnet once testnet's in a testable place. This issue, if Gavin's not here, we can't really talk about it. It's just a modification of the binding module. Speaking of new issues, too many peers, yes, that still manifests and develop. I'll get that fixed as soon as I can. I'll talk about the 2.1 issues in a sec. That's actually a separate item in the meeting. Graceful termination never completes. We just talked about that. I opened a couple issues that we can get done before 2.1, and those are, I call it the soft fork kit. It's described in SIP 11 what it has to do. What it does is it makes it so that miners can use bits that are not used in the block commit messages to indicate whether or not to vote for a particular soft fork. And what we need to have is a structure in the node that identifies what soft forks are under consideration within a particular Stacks blockchain fork and which soft forks are active. So that, and do it in such a way that block processing, for example, has insight into what soft forks are active, so we can take certain soft fork dependent code paths. I'm going to try to start working on this after the 2.0.11 release. I see we have a bunch of 2.1 issues to talk about. Reed, you want to talk a bit about this, the test vectors issue?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is something that has come up a few times. Most recently, there was a bug in the Stacks.js implementation of, there was a multi-sig bug, and then recently there was a sponsored transactions bug. And it just kind of got me thinking that it'd be really useful if we had a repository of test vectors that, future implementations of Stacks, and in this case, the JavaScript implementation could use to make sure that everything is kind of on par with the Rust implementation. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of picturing this as either living in the Stacks blockchain repo or its own repo, maybe in the Stacks Gov, under Stacks Gov ownership. And we could kind of just say like any Stacks implementation should be able to use these test vectors to kind of produce a transaction in a certain way or whatever, right? I think they could be for a lot of different things, but they basically just be tests, like inputs to tests with outputs, like input output pairs, and maybe some description about what the test does. I don't know. I think there's some thought that would need to go into this, but that's kind of the basic idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea. In fact, I think Bitcoin actually does this. Like they have a repository of test vectors, a JSON file. I think that I think they actually keep it with their BIPs so that downstream clients just use them for testing.
Mm-hmm.
We could totally do that. Like that sounds like a great idea. We just need to think about how it integrates into our CI system, I think, which is
yeah. Cool. Yeah. Maybe this is something I could take a stab at after I'm done working on the refactor stuff.
All right, sounds good. Feel free to assign yourself as soon as you're ready to take it on.
Cool. Sounds good.
Expose when contracts/functions are called by other contracts. I don't think Thomas is on the call, but it looks like, so yeah, I remember reading through this issue. It looks like the concern is, and I think maybe Matt can speak more to this, might it be possible for the event observer to track stack traces, like to track some sort of trace through the VM as functions are being called and emit those as events? Like maybe each contract call might even be an event. I'm personally okay with this in principle. I guess my main questions aren't about whether or not it should be done, but more about like, does this become a DOS vector? Like how deep or how frequent can I make contract calls? I guess it's not that frequent because I'm limited by the compute budget of a transaction or by a block, excuse me.
Yeah, I think that the way to think about this is that really this issue is like a complaint that the delegate stacks function doesn't emit an event.
That's right, it doesn't.
Yeah, like really that function should have been emitting an event that event observers could listen to. So I would say that like we probably shouldn't try to solve this in general because like emitting like a stack trace event, like every time a contract call happens, like we could emit an event, like a contract call executed and like a response. But that would probably be a huge amount of events and a potential DOS vector for API nodes.
Right, that was my main concern. So maybe like this should be a separate issue, like you were saying, just make a 2.1 issue for updating a POX contract.
Yeah, I mean, we could address this in 2.0 by special casing the delegate stacks function and have it emit an event.
That's true.
Like the event observer is not consensus bearing, and so we can just add some events. So we can do like address this in 2.0 and then in 2.1 just actually write the event into the contract.
Yeah, because if we're doing a full sale replacement of the POX contract, we'll have a chance to add these things.
Yeah.
Go ahead and write that down real quick. Oh, this is a blockchain API, no wonder. Okay. Oh, I see these are just issues. We talked about these earlier with Reed. Working directory problem when restarting node on master. I believe this is actually fixed in develop. I think I actually mentioned it to the guy. Yeah, he's just going to wait for the develop branch to get merged. And I think we've wrapped around. I think we talked about this back last week, the POX contract. Cool. Close these. look at the 2.1 issues. All right, just open this one. I see we have a couple of assignments, but these are like older ones here. So we have lots of things we got to take on. How do you want to proceed to talk about these? Should we just self-assign a handful of these, or do we want to talk about them asynchronously? Are there any burning issues or questions we should think about right now? I think Aaron said he was gonna, no, never mind. No one's assigned to these ones yet. Do you want to just try to break them out right now?
Not particularly. I think like if we want to, I think that we should be just focused on getting 2.0.11 out. Once we get 2.0.11 out, we can discuss, work streams for 2.1.
Yeah, that almost should probably be its own meeting. I think they've got a lot of things to work through here.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like we both need to be sort of in the right frame of mind to, be thinking, strategically. And right now, I think both in terms of like all the stakeholders and, where we are in terms of like finalizing or locking down what should be in Stacks 2.1. I don't know if there's anything like that needs urgent attention here, like in the next 10, 15 minutes. So yeah, I would say we should probably just maybe even cut this meeting short and focus on addressing the issues that are impacting testnet and getting 2.0.11 out the door.
All right, before we break then, are there any other items we want to talk about for 2.0.11 or other things? Any burning issues, questions, concerns, things in the horizon we need to be aware of?
Can we quickly maybe just summarize what the immediate next steps are in terms of, there's the event descriptor leak, there is the inventory sync slowdown, sort of who's looking at what, where can we parallelize things, where can we help work happen. Want to make sure that we're not bottlenecked on, for example, Jude looking at all of the issues.
The descriptor leak, I think actually could be analyzed readily. I think I have a script right now that just looks through the debug log file, and it's not tailored for the current version, but for the last version, the messages have since changed. It just looks for like when events are freed and when they're not freed. If someone else wants to take that, I mean, I don't want to be a blocking factor because I'm already kind of knee deep in the inventory synchronization code right now.
I can investigate if you want.
Sounds good.
And I can start taking a look at the issue with the miner announcing a block, not announcing a block.
Sounds good. I have an integration test I was working on this just on Friday night. I was trying to duplicate it by simulating flash blocks. Maybe that's a starting point.
Yeah.
It's small enough that I can just copy and paste the code and send it to you. It's not that big of a test. I didn't get very far into it.
Cool. Sounds good.
All righty. Anything else?
Could I have like 5 minutes of someone's time? I just have like questions about 2 of the bugs I'm working on.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't need to like the whole meeting though, but.
Okay. I mean, yeah, we can just meet right afterwards if you want.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, just continue to, you can just hang out here. Everyone who wants to drop off, feel free to drop off.
All right, cool. Yeah, sure. All right, cool. Yeah, so then